The 14th year of Chenghua. Chapter 142. Tied to the belt. In the face of everyone's strange looks, Tang Fan acted like nothing was wrong, turning to say to Peng Yushun, "Lao Peng, go send someone to the Jinyui's capital commanding officer's office and tell them that court rebels were discovered here. Have them send people over." Pitifully Peng Yushun, in spite of being a minister, was shocked into a stutter by that. What court rebels?" Tang Fan pointed to the woman hugging his thigh. "I suspect that she's connected to the last dregs of the White Lotus Society. If that isn't treachery, what is? Why is no one heading out?" "Sir, this humble official will go." He Xian stood out to say. Glancing at him, Tang Fan nodded. Quickly, then. He Xian cupped his hands, hurrying downstairs without another word. Yin Qi watched He Xian's back as he left, astonished. He only reacted after a good minute, saying angrily, "Tang Fan, this is slander." No eyes on the law. You're a peon yet you called a court official by his taboo name, that's another level of offense." Tang Fan's hands were behind his back, neat and orderly. Were it not for the person hanging off from him, that posture would be extraordinarily elegant and confident. As was natural, the pretty woman hugging his thigh right now was also in a daze. "Don't you change black into white? She's clearly a courtesan from Fragrance. How could she be a White Lotus leftover?" Yin Qi said, raising his voice. Tang Fan gave an "oh" and said, "So, she's a courtesan from Fragrance. You seem to know that quite well, when even I didn't. Idiot nephew. Solon Yin lives a clean life, and if he knew that you were involved with a brothel woman while you played around here, you'd likely anger him to death." Whether he would anger his father to death or not, Yin Qi had no idea, but he definitely was about to rage to death from Tang Fan, himself. This man was not even 2 years older than him, yet he was using his status to play the role of his elder. Also, people had only ever called him good nephew. What was this idiot nephew crap? And yet, Tang Fan wasn't done scolding him, saying frostily, "The White Lotus Society has harmed the nation and its people. Its leader has long been executed, but there are still some subordinates that slipped the net and scattered in all directions. Take this woman that uses a brothel as a false background. In reality, she colluded with the White Lotus Society, specially exploiting you, an official's son, to conceal her identity while she secretly conspired for mutiny." Mysteriously saddled with the charge of mutiny, the woman immediately looked frightened. With no care for her previous mission, she let Tang Fan go at once and got up in a desire to escape. His eyes and hands were quick though as he grabbed her bun and hauled her backwards. She shrieked in pain, but he didn't have the slightest bit of pity. His actions were extremely quick, contrarily giving one the impression of poise. Everyone was dumbstruck seeing this, their scalps similarly aching faintly. Yin Qi was flustered. He had been ordered by his father to dump a basin of filth onto Tang Fan so that the censors could denounce him, which he had believed would be a cinch. Unexpectedly, it had not been so simple. He had clearly underestimated Tang Fan, getting challenged instead. Now, everyone's attention was entirely drawn to the topic of rebellion. Upon seeing how roughly Tang Fan treated that woman, who would believe that he was vying for her favor? Thinking of so, Yin Qi felt all the more anxious. If he could not complete his task, then when he came back, his father's face would probably be 100 times uglier than when he usually heard that he had gone out to be dissolute. "Tang Fan, you're obviously just embarrassed that I saw right through you. You're still holding on to her right in front of me." Tang Fan sized him up a few rounds, looking doubtful. "With how much you defend her, are you also associated with the White Lotus Society? Why are you saying that she's connected to it? Do you go grabbing random people on the road and saying that they're from the White Lotus Society, too?" "It's because I crossed swords with the White Lotus Society so many times, then personally eliminated them, that I am qualified to speak about them," Tang Fan answered leisurely, I only need to look at each and every person here once to know who's colluding with the White Lotus Society. Saying so, he looked up to scan the bustling crowd. Wherever his eyes went, people would subconsciously take a few steps back without fail. Some, not wanting to incite trouble, had already begun to turn and leave. Everyone knew that the White Lotus Society had been a great bunch of traitors that the court had wiped out. Who wanted to be implicated as one? Furthermore, Tang Fan hadn't been doing nothing over these years. He wasn't wearing his official's uniform right now, his expression was mild and he was not displaying any anger, yet the look in his eyes still held a deterring power that could not be clearly described. Few were brave enough to look directly at them. Even Yin Qi's companion had gone from high spirits to cowing back, quietly tugging on his robe as he whispered, Brother Yin, how about we just go? Yin Qi was livid. He hadn't realized that under Tang Fan's imposing aura, he himself had already started to go a little weak, only thinking that everyone else was a cowardly punk. If you all want to leave, do it. I'm not. Young Master Yin's competitive mindset was only aroused by them, shoving his companion away. He raised his chin slightly, peering at Tang Fan provocatively, full of a what can you even do to me, air. Who isn't leaving, said a cold voice from the stairs. Following a proclamation of the Jinyue is on a case, none are allowed to leave, the expressions of everyone watching the excitement changed to nervousness. Some individual wanted to slip out but they had unfortunately missed the opportunity of not leaving before. The front and back entrances of Xianyun restaurant were blocked by saber-wielding Jinyue, who were sizing each and every person like they were dead, enough to cause them terror. Anyone that could afford to spend money at Xianqi restaurant was generally not any sort of impoverished, but even Peng Yushun's group shuddered a bit upon hearing the name Jinyue, to say nothing of them. It was because their shadow was too profound, really. The Jinyue belonged to the emperor's personal troops and had always had the power to arrest first, send a memorial later. The fearsome name of the imperial prison went without saying. However, with Tang Fan's understanding of them, regardless of whatever bureau had good and bad people mixed in, the real Jinyue like Suizhou and Xueling were still ordinary humans of flesh and blood. At times, they were even more particular about camaraderie than the average person, but that did not diminish the fear most people had of them. Of course, they had no interest in clearing up their names to anyone else. In life, it was enough to know oneself, that they're guiltless at heart. If one wanted perfection in all pursuits, it would be much too exhausting. Suizhou stepped out from the crowd. His eyes first fell upon the woman that Tang Fan had caught by the hair, then imperceptibly across Tang Fan's face, until it landed accurately on Yin Qi, ice-cold and murderous. Was it you who reported the case? That there's dregs of the White Lotus Society here. And no dregs here. The White Lotus Society isn't here. Despite forcing himself to pull together his grandeur, Yin Qi's grandeur was not really anything in front of Suizhou, instead making him more short of breath and guilty. If someone were watching carefully right about now, they might discover that his legs had already begun to shake. Jinyue envoy Sui, I reported it. This woman was incited by someone to act errantly. I suspect that she's related to a White Lotus Society follower, Tang Fan said, expression calm. When he said this, he let go. The woman sat weakly upon the floor, collapsing into a wail. It wasn't me. I'm not in the White Lotus Society. It was young Master Yin that ordered me to keep watch there and run into you when you passed by, then act like we were having an affair. He wanted to use that to sully your reputation. It has nothing to do with me. Please see reason, sir. Those not aware of the truth had an epiphany at that, but those that were aware didn't need her explanation. They had long noticed the oddity. Young Master Yin is Solon Yin's son. Why would he do something like this? You shouldn't slander people. It would be better for you to be forthcoming, so that you don't continue to suffer. Tang Fan looked towards Yin Qi with a false smile. Am I right, young Master Yin? Yin Qi jolted and hurriedly said, "Yes. Yes. Yes. Uncle Tang, that woman is connected to the White Lotus Society. She not only wanted to assassinate you but wanted to pour filth onto me. You should arrest her now." He had just said Tang Fan so derisively, yet now, that had changed to Uncle Tang. The woman hadn't anticipated that she would instantly become a cast-off pawn and was beyond stunned. She wanted to grab onto the life-saving stick near her again that was Tang Fan. However, before she could throw herself forth this time, her collar was firmly grasped from behind, and she was towed straight back as Suizhou tossed her at his subordinate next to him. Following Tang Fan's lead, there was another who was unaffected by beauty. No one dared to open their mouth and speak for her, because no one wanted to be called a rebel. The Jinyue's vicious reputation really was useful. No matter how many people were present, they were all scared into silence, not making a peep. Seeing that circumstances were not promising, Yin Qi wanted to turn and sneak away. His actions were too obvious to onlookers though, and he was quickly blocked by two Jinyue that showed up out of nowhere. "You're Yin Qi?" Suizhou asked. Yin Qi strove to straighten up and look a bit more imposing within the other's frigid scrutiny. "Yes. My father is the Minister of War, Grand Protector of the Crown Prince, Yin Ji." Suizhou seemed to not hear his implication, saying to his subordinates, "Take him away, too." "Hold on." Yin Qi's expression changed. "What sovereign law have I broken? You don't have the right to arrest me. Since the woman is related to the White Lotus Society and you were the one that brought her in, we need to verify that you have nothing to do with the White Lotus Society yourself." Suizhou asked coldly. With that, he didn't feel like speaking more nonsense, waving his hand. The Jinyue stepped forth, ignoring Yin Qi's struggle as they firmly grabbed him. Of his companions, not a single one was let go. "Sui Guangchuan, you crony. You dare to arrest people on your own. I'm going to tell my father, just you wait. You'll never stop suffering from this," he shouted out. The Wan group had made Yin Qi do this. From the beginning, it couldn't be labeled a mistake. Had Tang Fan been a little less quick-witted, or had a moment of non-response, a basin of filth water would very likely be dumped on his head by now. When tomorrow came, everyone in the capital would have known that Tang Fan fought over a woman with Yin Ji's son. Yin Ji, at most, would be scolded with a failure to teach his son properly, while Tang Fan would be flamed as a disgrace to refinement, with an outside that didn't match the inside. Things had developed in an unsuspected way. No one could have known that Tang Fan would have such a speedy counterattack. "Brother, do you want me to stuff up his mouth?" Xueling asked quietly. "No. Let him keep yelling. It's his father that will lose face, in any case," Suizhou answered similarly. "Then that's that. I'll make him scream some more things out." Xueling laughed, his tone filled with schadenfreude. He stepped up and smacked Yin Qi on the back of his skull. "What are you yelling about? How could Solon Yin have a son like you? You're even trying to steal someone's identity. Let's walk over to the Imperial prison before we talk more. Take him away." The second Yin Qi heard Imperial prison, his soul was scared out of his body and he sharply shrieked. "I really am Yin Ji's son. If you don't believe me, go ask the Yin estate." The Ministry of Justice group stood at the side, entirely unable to intervene. All they could do was observe until the end, watching as Yin Qi and the rest were taken away. A trap that had likely been aimed for Tang Fan had turned into a true farce, with no need to continue watching it. Pen Yushun sighed in relief at last, apologizing, "Sir, everything that happened tonight was because of me. If I hadn't invited you over, this wouldn't have." Tang Fan waved him off. "If it wasn't tonight, it would be another night. I just cost them face, so why would they give up?" A wave of anger rushed into Pen Yushun's heart. Even an inoffensive man like him had to say out of annoyance, "The Wan group is much too Tang Fan stopped him from saying the rest. Danchan, this has nothing to do with you. Don't get mixed up in it. Pen Yushun's was over 60, while Tang Fan was not even 30 yet. The age difference between them was massive. Listening to his chiding now, Pen Yushun gave no dissatisfaction at all at being instructed. He knew that Tang Fan had the qualifications to do so. However, it was also precisely because of that that Pen Yushun felt this to be all the more unfair to Tang Fan. Sir, he said, calming down a bit, if someone tells the censors to send memorials denouncing you, I wish to use my own innocence and this black hat on my head as a guarantee that I will come forward and testify for you. Sir, this humble official is also willing to use my life and innocence to testify. The speaker was Lu Tongguang. Back when Tang Fan had been in the Ministry of Justice, their friendship had been decent, but the other had been gutless and mediocre in his typical behaviors, too afraid to assume responsibility. Being able to stand up and speak on his own initiative was pretty commendable. Sir, I will do the same as Minister Peng. He Xian stated. Sir, so will I. Sir, so will. The officials spoke up in succession. Perhaps they were only following the lead, but Tang Fan was still quite moved. Although the Wan group was domineering, it could never be all-powerful. In this world, those righteous-minded ultimately took up a majority of people. He cupped his hands. Thank you, everyone, but this isn't that dire of a plight. If I do need help, this Tang will certainly say so on my own. Thank you again. Everyone quickly returned the courtesy. No need for such politeness, sir. This is what we ought to do. After sending them all off, Tang Fan and Suizhou left Xianqi restaurant. The woman ought to be blameless. After interrogating her, let her go. The imperial prison will scare it out of Yinqi, Tang Fan said. Suizhou nodded. I know. Will what happened tonight affect you? Tang Fan cocked his head, not understanding what he was referring to. His confused look only made Suizhou grab his hand, then went to bite his lower lip. Master Tang let out a yelp of pain, taking 2 bodily steps back. The faltering candlelight lit up a semi-mad, slightly embarrassed face. Sui Guangchuan, he raised his tone slightly, with some warning undertones. Just like how you can't restrain yourself when seeing food, I can't restrain myself when seeing you, Suizhou said quietly, smiling. Master Tang rolled his eyes but didn't exert any effort to shake off the other's hand, allowing him to lead him forward. You need to be careful, Suizhou said. Almost half of his figure was hidden in darkness. The lantern's faint light elongated their shadows, becoming inseparable in truth. With that result, the Wan group won't be letting this go. Tang Fan sighed. Frankly, I was just passing by. Their real aim is to depose the crowned prince. It was only because I humiliated Wan Tong last time that he would instruct Yin Qi to plot against me. Every day the crowned prince is still in the East Palace is a day they can't spare much thought for me. It's the crowned prince that really needs to be careful. Suizhou hummed, gripping his hand tightly. To be concise, I don't want anything to happen to you. Sometimes. Tang Fan didn't hear him clearly, pricking his ears up. What? Sometimes, I really want to tie you to my belt. Tang Fan laughed. Wouldn't your pants fall off? Just like that woman holding onto your thigh tonight? Did your pants fall off then? Did you see them do that? No, I heard people nearby saying so. Too bad I was a step too late. Tang Fan grinned, saying composedly, that's a real shame. As it was, that lady's looks were pretty good. Had it not been for Yin Qi mucking things up terribly, I might have actually pushed the boat along the water to have a casual fling with her. Suizhou hummed again as if he didn't hear him. After we get back, take off your pants so I can check whether she left any marks behind. Tang Fan's mouth twitched. Was it too late to say that he hadn't had any physical contact with her at all? When Tang Fan went to the cabinet the day after, everything appeared to be no different than usual. Even though Yin Ji ducked away when he saw him, looking like he didn't want to talk, it had stopped there, not going a single act further. In line with Tang Fan's guess, his son had still not yet been released from the imperial prison yet. Even though his life wasn't in danger, he was certainly enduring no lack of torment. Those Chenghua especially did not regard him as important, itching to mess with a dandy like him. However, Yin Ji's reaction was much too calm. Out of a desire to probe, Tang Fan took it upon himself to say, "Brother Yin, you surely know of the incident with your son and I at Xianqi restaurant last night. Isn't he still with the Chenghua now?" Yin Ji stated coldly. "A prince that breaks the law is treated the same as a commoner. My unfilial son has always been a troublemaker and it isn't rare for him to do all sorts of preposterous things. I should be thanking you for helping me discipline him." He cast everything off from himself in just a few words, leaving Tang Fan to not be able to say anything else. At that time, people arrived in succession. Head of the canine Etwanan alone was slow to arrive and didn't come until after everyone had been waiting for nearly a quarter of an hour. "His Majesty just summoned me, which is why I was late," he said. "Today's meeting will be pushed aside for later. Everyone, come with me to meet with His Majesty." They all exchanged looks, unsure of what was going on. The Emperor wanted to summon them. Why had no prior notice been given? Still, since it was his command, no one said anything further, stepping out of the pavilion and heading for the Palace of Heavenly Clarity. Lu Jian purposefully lagged a few steps behind, grabbing Tang Fan to whisper, "Do you know why His Majesty is summoning us?" Tang Fan shook his head. "I haven't heard anything." Su Pu also came in close, saying quietly, "I heard a little something." Tang Fan and Lu Jian stayed their mouths, waiting for him to continue. However, Su Pu said nothing and instead reaching out his palm, then drawing the character for crown on it. It was related to the crowned prince. Was His Majesty going to make a real move this time? Tang Fan and Lu Jian looked at each other in shock, both becoming somewhat apprehensive. End chapter. The 14th year of Chenghua. Chapter 143. Prefer to break, not bend. Upon arriving at the Palace of Heavenly Clarity, everyone was brought into a side hall. The eunuch in front of the emperor said, "Gentlemen, please sit and wait here for a bit. His Majesty would like to speak to the vice-head of the cabinet inside." Despite the Ming Grand Chancellor position being redistributed, and the might of Tang and Song dynasties' prime ministers no longer existing, the emperor still had to uphold fundamental courtesy towards Tang Fan and them. Had typical officials been visiting, they would have been made to stand outside and wait, but cabinet ministers would need to have seats to sit in and tea to drink. Still, evidently no one cared about that detail right now. The thoughts turning in each of their minds were none other than what the emperor was going to say and how they should respond if asked about the crowned prince. Logically speaking, the cabinet was one unit. There should never have been the scenario of individual cabinet members being called in to speak alone, yet the emperor was actually doing it, likely because he knew that no one could come to a consensus on a certain topic. He planned to separate them, put them in order, and break them down in turn. The Grand Emperor Almighty using a method like this on his subjects was both amusing and irritating. If it truly was related to the crowned prince, though, the emperor's actions were understandable. Seeing the compliant looks of Wan An's group, Tang Fan grew a little uneasy. An incense stick's worth of time later, Lu Ji came out. His expression was odd and unable to be described, but with everyone else here, Tang Fan's group couldn't go up to ask. After sitting down, Lu Ji didn't look at anyone. Like an old monk entering meditation, his eyelids were slightly hooded and unmoving. Following him, Penghua and Yin Ji entered in succession. Their times inside were not long, at least, not as long as Lu Ji's, and they came out a short time later, calm looking, yet with a smugness. The eunuch stepped up. His Majesty invites Solan Lu for a discussion. Lu Jian rose, fixed up his clothes, sent Tang Fan and Su Pu a look, then followed the eunuch out. Then, Wanan said, "Runking, I heard that you caught a remnant of the White Lotus Society last night." "It was no more than a suspicion," Tang Fan answered. "I reported it to the Chenghua. They've yet to confirm it." Yin Ji sneered. "Tang Fan, you're a Solan, yet you have an intimate relationship with imperial troops such as the Chenghua. Could it be that you were acting under somebody's order, and had some other intent?" Tang Fan was unmoved. "Those are heavy words, Brother Yin. It's the Chenhua's responsibility to track down and arrest imperial criminals. Me aside, had it been you, would you have covered it up and not reported traces of the White Lotus Society's dregs? I'm just afraid that someone is using public matters for revenge," Yin Ji said with a cold smile. "Where did talk of revenge come from? Please explain, Brother Yin." The two verbally clashed for a round, then saw Lu Jian come back with the eunuch. Had Lu Ji's expression when he came back been described as merely odd, then Lu Jian's could be labeled as hard to look at. What had His Majesty said to him? Tang Fan and Su Pu looked at each other, both a little mystified. However, Lu Jian didn't try to make eye contact with them, nor did he look at anyone else, merely sitting down with his chest slightly heaving, as if he had just experienced a draining quarrel. Seeing that, Su Pu became a little uneasy, but he could only follow the attendant passing along the message to go see the emperor. At that moment, Tang Fan contrarily collected himself, no longer attempted to speak or make eye contact with anyone, and began to shut his eyes in rest. Yin Ji had wanted to jab at him a few times but had to shut up when he saw that. Su Pu soon came back. His expression was even uglier than Lu Jian's, his complexion slightly pale, feet slightly staggering. Tang Fan opened his eyes. Noticing his out-of-sorts look, he couldn't help but step forth to lend him an arm. All of a sudden, Su Pu grabbed his sleeve and bawled aloud, "Runking, you have to convince His Majesty." Everyone was startled by him to the point that they were slow to react, even the attendant that had wanted to call for Tang Fan was astounded. In all of their memories, Su Pu had always been a mild man of inelegant speech. He might defend the crowned prince but he was poor at arguing with other people, would be cowed quite easily, and typically worked quietly. Compared to Tang Fan, the youngest one at the tail end of the ranks, he had no sense of existence. This was the reason why the Wan group had agreed for him to enter the cabinet, as a man like him would not pose any threat to them. No one had expected that the mild man, when forced into a tight spot, would explode. Faced with his outburst, Tang Fan was unsure of what to say. "Master Qinzai." Lu Jian lent Su Pu an arm, saying to Tang Fan, "Go on, Runking. I'll be here." Tang Fan nodded at him, quickly following the attendant away. The emperor appeared to have lost more weight from when he had seen him a few days ago. Even though general courts were held every day, with his recent sickness, not going to court on the basis of his health couldn't be a better excuse. "This subject greets you, Your Majesty." "May your health be well," Tang Fan said, bowing in courtesy. Unless there was a grand court meeting or festival, cabinet members generally didn't need to bow for such summons. "You're exempt from courtesies, Subject Tang." "Sit," the emperor said, voice a little hoarse, and accompanied by a few coughs. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Amongst the cabinet ministers, the relationship between the emperor and Tang Fan was not especially close. When the latter had been elected by the court for entry into the cabinet, which the 6 ministries had voted upon, the emperor hadn't objected, was all. Following his entry, Tang Fan hadn't had many opportunities to meet the emperor alone, as the majority of time, he would have audiences together with the other members. The emperor's impression of Tang Fan could be said as either good or bad. He felt that the man might be highly capable but not too understanding of how to conduct himself as a subject. Had it not been for his need to speak to them individually today, the emperor would not have thought to summon Tang Fan by himself. In a rare instance, the emperor had a kindly look as he spoke with Tang Fan a long time about unimportant topics, like whether he was getting on well after entering the cabinet. Someone that didn't know the inside story might have been moved to tears by this show of consideration by the emperor. However, Tang Fan's expression was grave, his answered within bounds. He had none of the vigor that a young subject would have, causing the emperor to feel bored. A dry, tedious conversation like this was torment for both ruler and subject. The frequently appearing, unusual phenomena of now, you have presumably heard of it as well, subject Tang. So, the emperor could finally no longer bear with chatting about everything, getting into the main topic. It was here. Tang Fan couldn't help but straighten out his spine. Yes, this subject has heard, and seen the letter Your Majesty ordered to be passed around in the cabinet. The emperor leaned forward a bit, looking antsy. How do you view this, then? Tang Fan pursed his lips. Please forgive the subject for my slowness, I don't know what you mean, Your Majesty. The Imperial Observatory informed us that the phenomena were all in answer to the East Palace. Your implication being that, the East Palace. The emperor didn't feel like going in circles with him. Heaven's warnings must be made manifest. We wish to issue a decree of our own faults, and reset the East Palace. What do you think, subject? The conversation coming to this, Tang Fan could not continue to play dumb. Schooling his expression and standing up, he cupped his hands solemnly. I dare ask, Your Majesty, where has the crown prince lacked in virtue? The emperor was a little impatient. Before Tang Fan, that question had already been posed by Lu Jian and Su Pu, and he was sick of these wheel-like conversations. Still, in order to fight for the cabinet members to not drag their feet in deposing the crowned prince, he was obliged to patiently attempt to convince them individually. The officials of this dynasty far surpassed all previous dynasties in defending the eldest son orthodox. As was known, with how strong Zhu Di had been, he had still failed to depose the crowned prince in order to establish his favorite, the Prince of Han. The power of the Wan group overtook the Yongle periods, but the emperor did not have the power that Yongle had, and thus, required to consult the cabinet for its opinion, first. The crowned prince has been in the East Palace for over 10 years, now, yet he has never made any sort of accomplishment, nor gained a reputation of benevolence. Is that not an area where he lacks in virtue? The celestial omens were precisely to have us correct this without delay. He may be the heir apparent, but when all is said and done, he is still your subject, Tang Fan answered, and as one, he must be content with his place, disallowed from exceeding the distinction between a ruler and a subject. It is exactly because of that that he has no accomplishments, as only then can he fully perform his duty as successor. Why are you dissatisfied with that, Your Majesty? His meaning being, the crowned prince achieving nothing is the only correct thing to do. Otherwise, if he put on a high-profile display, everyone, outsiders would only know that there is a crowned prince, not that there is an emperor. Would that make you happy? That sentence referenced the emperor's internal thoughts without mercy, and clearly expressed his standpoint: I am against deposing the crown prince. The emperor was somewhat annoyed. Tang Fan, since you understand the concept of performing one's duty, you should know that a ruler acts, and subjects follow. You speak up for the crowned prince in all aspects. Is that a subject's duty? Not afraid at all, Tang Fan bowed and said, Forgive me, Your Majesty, but this subject has read the tomes of sages since childhood. Although I cannot claim rich erudition, I understand the principles behind the heaven, the earth, the ruler, the relation, and the teacher. The sages did not speak of strange powers and chaotic gods, because the prime sage believed that the powers of mortals could not fathom divine will or the supernatural, preferring to never speak of them. The frequent phenomena are indeed a sign of warning, but how can it be identified on the Imperial Observatory's few words alone? I only fear that there may be another cause. All the land knows that the crowned prince has done no wrong. This subject hopes that you reconsider, your majesty. The emperor shut his eyes. What Tang Fan said had been the source of his previous hesitation. However, he had now made up his mind, so the other's plea could not sway him. Silence was in the hall. Even the young eunuch nearby strove hard to stifle his own breathing, itching to hide his figure behind the curtain. The emperor's poor health meant that someone needed to be attending to him at all times. This eunuch had been selected for entry into the palace in his childhood, his loyalty undoubtable, but that didn't mean that he wanted to hear these things. Word had passed through generations in the palace that the more one knew, the worse they would end up. Had the former eunuch Huayan not been exiled to Nanjing by His Majesty for sticking his hand too deeply into politics? A while later, he heard the emperor slowly speak out, "We plan to establish another East Palace. Would you be willing to draw up an edict for us?" The eunuch's heart hung high. He was thinking of how Solon Tang would answer that. He was also thinking how he would answer if he was Solon Tang. If Solon Tang's answer angered the emperor, even though this emperor had a better temperament than emperors of previous courts, and the results might not be terrible, it was still likely that he wouldn't be able to remain in the cabinet, nor would he have another opportunity to enter it. The eunuch thought that if he was Solon Tang, he might choose the second best option of not helping His Majesty draw up the edict but also no longer oppose the deposition of the crowned prince. While his thoughts twisted about, he heard Tang Fan answer, "Forgive me. Please reconsider, your majesty." Oh no. His Majesty was definitely going to get mad. The eunuch was nervous. He had heard that Solon Tang was typically polished, not as volatile as Solon Lu, so why had he chosen the worst possible answer? Nobles did not stand beneath teetering buildings. That saying was not wrong. Nobles ought to pursue fortune and avoid disaster. That saying was also not wrong. However, he didn't understand that there were always some things in the world where one knew well that they couldn't act, but had to act, anyways. The emperor was clearly angered, his tone even changing. "Tang Fan, do not believe that just because you have a good relationship with Suizhou, we would not act against you to save him face. Lu Jian is like this, you are like this, and even Su Pu is like this. You all fight over showing the most loyalty to the crowned prince. Are you hoping that we will go out west as soon as possible, so that you can gain the merit of supporting a dragon? You accuse this subject wrongly, your majesty," Tang Fan answered calmly. "From beginning to end, we subjects have been loyal only to you, and it is because of that, we must do our duty to give advice while there is still time, lest you make a mistake you cannot take back. Think of back when you personally selected the crowned prince, the harem had few offspring, and when you saw him show up, you must have been very happy. His mother passed young, and the only one he can rely on is you. If even you throw him away, what will he be made to do with himself? You can go." Tang Fan raised his voice. "Your Majesty." "Withdraw." The eunuch had to step forth and whisper, "Solon Tang, please stop." Tang Fan looked up, glancing at the emperor. The latter looked exhausted, there were deep lines at the corners of his eyes. He did not resemble a finely kept, 40-year-old man but more like a man of consort Wan's age. A rapidly deteriorating emperor made the heart ill at ease. Tang Fan didn't bother to stay. He took back his gaze, gave courtesy, then left the place, following the attendant. Lu Jian and Su Pu had been waiting nervously in the side hall. Seeing Tang Fan's figure, they automatically stood, casting their expectant gazes towards him. There was no need to ask, as Tang Fan knew what they wanted to ask. He slightly shook his head. They were instantly disappointed. On the road back, everyone was of different minds, and have different expressions of emotion. Wan An's group was naturally of light gait and easy speech, which Lu Jian and the rest were heavily dismayed, looking like their parents had died. Tang Fan wasn't bawling like how Su Pu just had, but his mood wasn't any better. That was because that he knew well that with this much done, the emperor's decision to depose the crowned prince was unflappable. Within the cabinet, only Lu Jian, Su Pu, and Tang Fan firmly opposed the deposition, but they were of the lowest seniorities. Once Lu Ji agreed to it, a one-sided situation would appear. And, judging from his display today, Lu Ji likely hadn't plainly agreed yet also hadn't expressed opposition. With his personality, it had probably gone similarly. Ji's response to Jiaozong of Tang's deposition of Empress Wang for establishing Empress Wu, and he had told the emperor something like, "This is a family matter of yours, your majesty. Why bother asking outsiders?" For that reason, the three of them alone had no way to control the situation at large. If there were no other significant incident, the crowned prince's deposition was set. Something even Yang Al couldn't have accomplished would be realized in the hands of the current emperor. Tang Fan sighed inwardly, unsure of whether to laugh or cry. Others did not have his mood of finding joy within the bitterness. Lu Jian and Su Pu were distracted all day long, and as soon they got off duty, they dragged Tang Fan away quickly. Wanan didn't make them stay. The crowned prince's deposition was already the theme, and no matter how the rest of them struggled, it would all be in vain. Also, the Wan group was not without influence amongst the censors. If someone sent a memorial opposing it at that time, Wanan could move those censors to support it. Is there really no margin for recovery on this matter? Su Pu asked, sighing. I'll go see the crown prince right now. Lu Jian said, pausing in his tracks and turning to go. Tang Fan and Su Pu quickly grabbed him. What can you do if you go there? Ask him to beg his majesty himself? That will only make people think that he's having errant thoughts by colluding with officials. Think what, now? Only the Wan group would flip right and wrong like that. Lu Jian raged. Then that means you can go even less. Su Pu said. Master Qinzai is right. We've done all we can, Tang Fan said. Is doing all we can enough to cover everything? Lu Jian's voice was both angered and dismayed, but he was not aiming it at them. The two sighed, having nothing to say. Most of society had long sensed the emperor's intent, but they still had no idea that he had already made up his mind. His lone summonings of cabinet members might not necessarily get around until tomorrow. At times like this, the importance of cabinet ministers was shown, because they were in the pivotal place of the empire's power. No one learned news or hold information as quickly as they could, and yet, Tang Fan was not feeling a drop of happiness. He didn't even eat dinner, hiding away in his study to stare off at his desk by himself. Until a knock came at the door. Come in. Sui Zhou was the one to open the door, noodle soup in hand, while Wang Zhi stood behind him. The latter couldn't wait to open his mouth. What is even going on? This morning, His Majesty. What did you promise me when you came in here? Sui Zhou cut him off, plainly displeased. Wang Zhi very reluctantly shut his mouth. With that, Sui Zhou set the soup in front of Tang Fan. Eat first, then we'll talk. I'm not hungry, Tang Fan said, looking bitter. It was extremely rare to hear him say words. Sui Zhou acted like he didn't hear him at all and said, Shall I feed you? I can do it myself. Tang Fan was obliged to take the chopsticks. The cook's regard could be gleaned from the aroma of the broth. Tang Fan couldn't bear to brush off such regard. Sui Zhou never said much superfluous drivel because he would often apply it all right into his actions. Wang Zhi patiently watched Tang Fan eat, managed to wait until the bowl was almost half eaten, and then couldn't hold back any longer. I hear that this morning, His Majesty summoned the cabinet members individually to speak with. Which his temper, that he could wait until now to speak, was already remarkable. Yes, Tang Fan answered. Wang Zhi stabbed right in. Was it related to the crowned prince? What was the result? Even you should know the answer to that. Why the need to ask me? Tang Fan shook his head, setting down the bowl. Why didn't you stop it? Wang Zhi harshly interrogated. Tang Fan remained calm. I did all I could, Lu Jian and Su Pu did all they could, too. Wanan might have promised Lu Ji something, causing him to not propose an objection to this. Since the head and vice head of the cabinet have reached a unanimous decision, what is the use of any objections from us three? Wang Ji got up and paced around, unable to hide his anxiety. Then what should I do now? Tang Fan watched him, internally wondering whether he was having regrets about listening to his advice back in the day and falling on the crowned prince's faction. He sighed. I urged you some time ago to draw a clear boundary with the Wan group. I didn't expect that it would only bring you harm. Wang Ji waved him off somewhat brusquely, interrupting him. You don't need to say that. I want to know your way out. Planning matters is up to humans. Completing them is up to the heavens. All of Tang Fan's worry and hardship seemed to have vanished along with the noodles. He took the handkerchief Sui Zhou offered to wipe his mouth off. I discussed with Qinzai and him already, if His Majesty acts on his own will, we will all submit memorials of resignation. Wang Ji was taken aback. What's the use of that? If you all leave, won't the cabinet become even more of Wanan's echo chamber? That is the limit of what we can do. Do you have a better way, otherwise? Wang Ji had come to find Tang Fan while holding a glimmer of hope. In his opinion, Tang Fan always had inexhaustible ways out of things, really exceeding expectations at times to leave him pleasantly surprised. Still, everything had their exceptions. In the end, Tang Fan was a person, not a deity. There were times that he was powerless to do anything, too. Wang Ji was utterly disappointed. Fewer and fewer people were at the crowned prince's side. Huayan was no longer in the capital. If these three were also forced to leave the cabinet, the remainder would not be enough to pose a threat. As for Wang Ji himself, he could secretly help the crowned prince escape, but he could never stand openly against the Wan group like Tang Fan's group. Sui Zhou's status similarly restricted him to be staunchly loyal to the emperor. The crowned prince was the heir apparent but not yet an emperor, ultimately. Was there no one to stop the crowned prince's fate of getting deposed? Wang Ji ultimately left the Tang residence feeling down. After sending him out, Tang Fan said to Sui Zhou in self-mockery, were it not for me egging him to get close to the crowned prince, he might be as smug as a spring wind right now, without the need to be so worried. Sui Zhou reached out and brushed some hair that had been in his face due to the wind and moved it back behind his ear, then said one profound set of words, you just said as well that completing things is up to the heavens. Heaven's might is hard to fathom, how can a mortal or two distort it as they see fit? Following this conversation, when Tang Fan was still immersed in dreams in the middle of the night, he was shaken awake by Sui Zhou, and came to learn a bit of news. There had been an earthquake in Shandong and it had happened at Mount Tai. End chapter.